Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host Omar Khalid. But today is the 5th of November 2024 and these are the stories that we will be highlighting during the course of the show. We'll begin with the US elections. Today, of course, is D-Day, the election day in the US. Polling has started since the last couple of hours in different states, and slowly and steadily different states are opening up their voting centers as per the different timings, because as you know, the US has different timings in different areas. 50 states voting will begin or has begun, wherein people are going to vote for the future presidential electables. Of course, the main two candidates are Donald Trump and Kamalaharris. There's also Jill Stein in the offing, but of course this is not going to be a very easy or very quick process. It might take a couple of days. We'll be asking our guests in this very segment of what the voter sentiment is, what the different campaigning schedules and sentiments and statements of both the main candidates have been like, and what are the predictions. Our second segment, ladies and gentlemen, concerns Pakistan's war against terrorism. Now, security forces have killed 7 terrorists in separate operations on Monday, 2 in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, 1 in Balochistan. The fact is that our valiant armed forces have been always on the front line to defend our motherland, and this is just another example of how these nefarious khawarij have been thwarted by our very own defense forces. Why is there an uptick as far as such operations are concerned? Why is there an uptick as far as terrorist activities are concerned? We'll be highlighting that in our second segment. Then we'll be talking about smog that has engulfed Lahore, although the AQI levels have slightly dropped, but the fact remains that Lahore is engulfed in what they call a smog. Wind speeds are also depending on, it all depends on how the smog is becomes concentrated or not. When the wind speeds are high, the smog dissipates and breathing becomes a bit better. But of course, we all know the reasons behind the smog. We'll be highlighting that in our third story. Lastly, we'll be talking about at least 25 women, including women and children, who have died when traffickers deliberately capsized their boat off the Indian Ocean nation of Comoros. Now, this has been confirmed by the IOM, but the fact remains that such incidents continue to happen, and such incidents also result in the deaths of many every year. Let's begin with our first segment, and let's begin with the US elections. Today is the D-Day. Today is election day in the United States of America, in the 50 states. We've been joined by 2 guests to discuss more on that. Jennylyn Gleave joins us from the US, and in the studios we've been joined by Zamir Ahmad Awan Sahab, foreign affairs expert. Thank you very much, Zamir Sahab, to have joined us as well. We will begin with Zamir Sahab. Zamir Sahab, polling has begun in different states of the US as we speak. 50 states, people are enthusiastic, people have different points of views. How does the day look like to you?
It is just the beginning of the day. I have spoke to some of my friends there, and they are always very much confused because it is too early to predict something.
All right, so I'll ask the same question to my guest who has joined us online, Jennylyn Gleave. Thank you very much to have joined us. This is our first interaction. I hope it will be the first of many. Jennylyn, tell me a little bit about what's going on today. In which state are you present, and what are the reports that you are hearing from the different states, from different polling centers that have opened today?
Good morning, and thank you for including me in this morning's interview. Based on what I have been observing, it's a very quiet, seemingly regular day. And apart from what's being reported on television, it just seems it's too early really to make any predictions, but people are going out to vote. And on the various websites and social media platforms, people are posting that they have voted. Right now, it feels really calm, and of course, each party is hoping their preference will be the winner, but I think it's too early in the day to really tell, what is going to unfold.
All right, Jennylyn, let's talk a little bit about the last campaigns that both Donald Trump and Kamala Harris had. I'll begin with Trump, who held his rally in Michigan in the Grand Rapids. He also, it was the same place where he closed his 2016 and 20 20 campaigns as well. He predicts a large victory, and of course we all know the different claims that he has been putting forward. He also has again made an effort to win over the Muslim and Arab voters in Michigan who seem to be dissatisfied with Harris's support for the war in Gaza. He says, and I quote, they put America last, we put America first. He also said, and so this is something I'm going to ask you, he says the silent majority is back and tomorrow you need to get out and vote. Is the silent majority going to vote in Trump's favor, or do they have other candidates in mind as well?
It is so difficult as an independent person, someone who doesn't know everyone, to tell. A lot of people are quiet. A lot of people are not really expressing which side they're on. The country is very divided. And I think until the day is over, only then we can really make an accurate assessment of how this will go. Because depending on who's reporting the news, the slant can go for both people within the same hour. So it's very, very difficult to predict and determine what is going to happen. We just have to wait until they've tallied the votes at the end of the day. But based on the turnout for the various campaigns, although I am remaining neutral, it seems like it is in Mr. Trump's favor.
All right. We'll now go to our guest in the studios. Kindly stay online with us, Jennylyn. Zamir Saab, Zahid, in fact, Zamir Saab, I'd like to understand, Kamalaharris was recently in Pennsylvania. This is one of the major swing states which holds 19 electoral votes, and they say that this is the make or break state as far as these elections that have begun today is concerned. She outlines to plan an economy where we bring down the cost of living, promises to make housing and childcare more affordable. She talks about banning corporate price gouging on groceries, housing and childcare, taxes, tax cuts for workers, for middle class families. Are these statements going to lure the voters towards the Democrats, or is it a bit too late in the day?
I think that this election are more look like the third world countries elections. Both the candidates are claiming victories and lead a big lead. And they are making promises and they are putting forward their agendas, especially economic, on economy and international relation and all these things. But one thing which I believe that it is the first time there is a realization of the Muslim vote bank. They believe the Muslim votes matter, not only matter, but it matter a lot. They are trying to convince the Muslim community, especially Israel, Gaza and Middle East situation has instrumental role in this election.
All right, Zamir Saab, but you talk about Gaza. I'd like to understand, how do you see both the candidates when it comes to the foreign policy? Both the candidates talk about the Ukraine-Russia conflict, they talk about the Palestine-Israel conflict, and of course both have a tilt towards Israel when it comes to this conflict. But Kamala Harris says that she's going to move towards a two-state solution if she comes into power. Then of course there are other global issues also, Taiwan that Kamala Harris seems to be very close to as we speak, and China also, which Trump seems to be close to as far as, you know, handling, as he says, China once he comes into power. How do you see the foreign policy objectives of both the candidates, and who do you feel seems more balanced as far as their foreign policy statements are concerned?
Kamala Harris' foreign policy will remain same as the Biden, basically. She was a vice president and she has completed one tenure of 4 years. And it is expected that she will continue the same policies. And if the Trump come into the power, he might have a different approach, especially toward the Ukraine war. On Taiwan and on the Middle East, I believe there will be no big difference.
All right.
I don't believe there's a big difference.
All right.
And also, in American system, the president is a very powerful person, but he has very little space to manipulation. There is a deep state which make major decisions.
All right.
The outline of the policy is set by certain authorities, and they have very little space to manipulate.
All right, all right. Coming to you, Jennylyn, let's talk economy. You know, economy is something that many of the voters in the US are hinging upon as far as their voting, patterns are concerned. Let's begin with Trump, who says he's going to slash the corporate rate tax, cut government spending, impose massive tariffs on foreign-made goods, and make the US the world's largest energy producer. Kamala Harris says she's going to cut taxes for more than 100 million working and middle-class Americans while increasing the corporate tax rate. She also wants to ban price gouging and build an opportunity economy agenda to boost small businesses and entrepreneurs. Which of these economic agendas do you feel is more attractive for the voters?
I think if you were to interview each individual American, you may find that both are appealing to some of the voters. The bottom line is all of these promises excite voters, and usually it's what will incent the vote. But when that person gets to the White House, whomever ends up there, all of these promises, they are not, as you know, at liberty to execute on. It depends on what happens when it's taken to the House or the Congress. And oftentimes, these types of promises are vetoed. So it really leaves us in a very hopeful place, although those of us who've done the research, we are aware that we may not be able to have these promises delivered, even if the candidate of choice does end up in the White House.
Jennylyn, let's also discuss immigration as a very important topic, because this has been the highlight of many a campaign before the elections. Trump says he wants to use the National Guard to deport millions of undocumented immigrants, many of whom have been in the US for years. He says he's going to end birthright citizenship for children of undocumented parents. He said he's going to execute migrants who commit murders in the US, and has demonized migrants in profanity-laden campaign speeches. Let's come to Kamala Harris, who acknowledging the US's current immigration system is broken, but says she wants to pass a border security bill that would increase detection technology and add 1,500 new border agents, and also supports an earned pathway to citizenship. How, I know the difference is quite stark as far as immigration is concerned for both these campaigns, but what do you feel people are leaning more towards?
I think the people in America are very unhappy, and personally I'm very confused because Ms. Harris, or the Democratic Party, have been accused of opening our borders recently, and we have had an influx of people just walking across our borders without going through the regular process to come here. I have many friends living in other parts of the world that can't even get the visa to come to visit, and these people just walked across the border. So to be honest with you, I'm completely confused. It seems like a contradiction. So I guess we will just have to wait on time to see what those promises really mean.
I understand where you're coming from. Zamir Saab, gerrymandering is also a term that has been used often, and they say that in the election campaigns is something that is used to help candidates. Now it is, of course, it has been called vote rigging, a power grab, and just plain sneaky, but it's legal, and both the Republicans and the Democrats use it. I mean, it's a process of redrawing voting districts to favor political parties. How do you feel this could also help in these elections?
If you allow me, I want to say something about the immigrants.
All right, please go ahead.
In fact, America is an immigrant society. Those who has been immigrated long ago, and they have the legal documents, and they got the citizenship, they are still immigrants. They have the roots from other countries. They are maybe focusing more on the illegal immigrants without documentation. There is a lot of realization that the illegal immigrants are major cause of the problems and the crimes and some unrest in the society. But they don't know that they are also contributing to the as a workforce and the cheaper labor. All the donkey work and the dirty work, these are illegal immigrants are performing it. And if any candidate take severe action against these people or deport them, American economy will suffer a lot.
All right, that's your take on it. Jennylyn, coming to you, the mayor of Hamtramck, Amir Ghalib, and the mayor of Dearborn Heights, Bill Bazzi, have both spoken at the beginning of the Republican event in Grand Rapids in Michigan, and they all have endorsed, both have endorsed Trump. Now, both are Arab Americans. At the same time, we are also hearing a lot of reports of many of the Arab Americans who are disillusioned with both Trump as well as Kamalaharris and are voting for Jill Stein. What are the statistics as far as the Arab American or even the African American community in the US is concerned? Who are they leaning more towards?
Well, again, it depends on where you're getting the numbers from. Sometimes in the same day, some of the mainstream media networks will report that Trump is leading, and in that same day, the network that favors the other candidate will report that that person is leading. And so it's really difficult as an American to really know what the numbers really are, because all we have to go to for these results are the mainstream media that's reporting it. So to tell you the truth, I don't know, but based on what I see at the rallies, it would appear as though it's Trump.
I'm asking you a lot of the questions because I'd like to your point of view as far as that is concerned. Tim Walz seizes on Trump, saying he's going to protect women whether they like it or not, and he says tomorrow, and this happened yesterday, he said tomorrow women all across America are free age, both parties are going to send a loud and clear message to Donald Trump whether he likes it or not. And this was of course concerning the whole abortion law and the whole campaign that has been going on both the sides as far as abortion as a subject is concerned. Will abortion, in your point of view, be one of the key deciders?
Is that question for me?
Yes, it's for you, Jennylyn.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize it was for me. I think based on what I've been listening to and what I know and what I personally believe, this would be an incentive, yes, for women to vote for him. But when it comes to other issues in terms of controlling what a woman does with her body, it seems to me like even this is not something that a president can promise and have it delivered as promised, because all of the promises have to be agreed upon by both sides. And this is where the problem lies, because we can all, if I were a candidate, I would make many promises and I would really hope to deliver on them. But these promises are just, I feel, incentives to get people to trust that candidate. But there is no guarantee that it will be delivered. And I think a lot more Americans are aware of this now. So even though these promises are being made, those people who have done their homework may not necessarily use that as the reason to favor the particular candidate. It shows that they want to, but it's also they're limited on delivering what they're telling us that they are promising.
All right, all right. Thank you very much, Jennylyn Gleave, to have joined us all the way from the United States to give us a brief outlook of what she feels is the sentiment amongst the voters on voting day. As we very well know, today is the day the entire US of A votes for their future president. Zamir Saab, Arizona is one of the 7 key swing states in this election. It is struggling with a worsening climate crisis. There are also North Carolina and Nevada who are experiencing extreme weather patterns. There are different promises that have been made as far as climate change and environment are concerned. Whereas Harris wants to build on Inflation Reduction Act, she wants to continue US global leadership in climate and fight for the freedom to breathe clean air. Trump plans to restore tracking on federal land, fracking rather, and withdraw from the 2015 Paris Agreement, cancel electric vehicle mandates, remove environmental regulations, push back against the Inflation Reduction Act. Which political party seems to be more serious about climate change? I'm just laying down facts.
If you realize the thing that UN has stopped funding to United Nations Environmental Protection Agency, UNEP, and they have withdrawn or they have not signed many protocols. That means that is the overall policy of US. Whatever these candidates are making promises, they are just only political slogans.
All right. So, let us see, I mean the Americans are voting today, let us see who they trust,
Yes.
who they vote for,
Yes.
and eventually we will know in maximum in a couple of days on who is coming
7th.
out on tops as
Yes.
far as the next president of the United States of America. Thank you very much, Zamir, Ahmad, Awan sahab, to have joined us. Let us come to our second story, and that concerns terrorism and Pakistan. We have had many incidents recently that show that there is an uptick as far as the whole climate of terrorism is concerned, and of course we see the khawarij who are trying to be more or less quite active in this domain, especially in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa area as well as Balochistan. Security forces killed 7 terrorists in separate incidents yesterday. One terrorist was killed in Balochistan and the other 6 were killed during 2 operations in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Now the fact is that these are 2 regions where there seems to be an increase in terrorist activity, and this is something that needs to be not only highlighted for the activity of these khawarij, but also about the valiant efforts and sacrifices of the security forces who have been on the forefront as far as the defense paradigm of our country is concerned. Had it not been for our defense forces, the number of intelligence based operations that are being carried out literally every single day, we would not have been able to control this environment as much as the defense forces have been able to. The fact also remains that there is a constant activity as far as these terrorist activities are concerned in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa region as well as in Balochistan. Many different surveys have come as far as the different security operations and such operations, terrorist operations by the Khawarij and other terrorist outfits are concerned, and we've been discussing that many a times in the past as well. To discuss the recent spate of attacks and the methodology not only of these Khawarij but also on how our armed forces have been thwarting such attacks. We've been joined by 2 guests. Let me introduce them to you one by one. We've been joined by Major General Zahid Mahmood sahab, he's a defense analyst. He joins us in the studio. Thank you very much, sir, to have come here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
And we'll be joined by Qamar Cheema, Dr. Qamar Cheema as well, who is a senior analyst who will be joining us online. Oh, he's right there. Qamar, welcome to our show as well. Let's begin with you, Major General Sahab. Major General Sahab, these 7 terrorists that are killed, 6 in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, 1 in Balochistan. Then also recently on the 2nd of this month, just a couple of days back, 4 terrorists were also killed in an IBO in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa's South Waziristan district. Why? I mean, I do always start my show by talking about this uptick, but why is there an uptick as far as such incidents are concerned, and why is this concentrated in Balochistan and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa?
But sir, once again, thank you very much for having me on your show. Look, we have to understand that there are 2 kind of threats which Pakistan is facing at the moment with regards to the terrorism and the wave of terrorism which has really, there's a surge which is in the recent past, all right. One is in the Balochistan and the other one is Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Now the people who are in Balochistan, they are probably, their purpose is to change and alter the geography of Pakistan, the alteration of border, maybe in terms of, targeting the regional, targeting Balochistan with an aim to have their own state and kind of a proxy, which primarily it's a proxy war which is going on there. In Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, we are confronting the enemy who are interested to change our lifestyle, who want to change our way of living, So these are the 2 different kinds. but the epicenter is again in Afghanistan. Now there is a huge collaboration between TTP, these groups, and the international application, which is, I'm just straight away I'll take the name of India, who are really sponsoring this terrorism, state-sponsored terrorism, and then they're also fueling the proxy war in Balochistan. So there is a huge combination of on that. Then there is a peculiar environment at the moment in Pakistan also, which they want to take advantage of. I mean, this little bit political unrest, or maybe things, not the governance issues in Balochistan, and especially the governance issues in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. So these governments are, you know, they're trying to stable themselves. So they're trying to take advantage of that environment which is already here in Pakistan. Then whatever is happening in Balochistan, that is also directly related to China, the CPEC, the economic activity of the China. So India has already portrayed themselves, they have presented themselves as the net security provider to the Washington and other forces, you know, in the Indo-Pacific region. And as part of the Indo-Pacific region, the prime, as we all know, that prime competitor to Washington is China. It is their declared policy. I mean, if you read the 22 policy, so China, so Chinese economic interest in the region, and Pakistan coming in form of the CPEC, our collaboration with China on the CPEC projects. So they have a common enemy. I mean, they have China, they are damaging Chinese interest also, they are damaging Pakistani's interest also. And that's why the poor workers who are working on different projects, they are the target. The hope of the Pakistani people and the confidence of Pakistani people in their security forces is the target. So they are going for the very soft targets as well, you see, poor workers, innocent people. So these are the soft targets which are taking. So the people of Pakistan lose confidence in their armed forces. But alhamdulillah, there is a determination in spite of all these efforts by the enemy. The military leadership and as well as the political leadership of Pakistan is very confident now. They are not in a mood to negotiate with these terrorists. So the kinetic operations, intelligence based operations, they are also increasing. So this is then we can discuss later in the program also. We have a disorderly Afghanistan in our neighborhood.
That's a very interesting aspect that you point on Afghanistan, and that is the question that I want to ask also, Qamar, but I'll come back to you with it as well. Pakistan, Qamar, has been constantly asking Afghanistan as far as border security is concerned, because all of such terrorist elements or khawarij emanate through these porous borders into Pakistan. Also, the fact that the Afghan interim government has not really accepted the border between the two countries is also another question that raises many other questions in the minds of Pakistanis and others. In your point of view, as has been pointed out by Pakistan, that the interim Afghan government is expected to fulfill its obligations and deny the use of Afghan soil by the Khawarij for perpetuating acts of terrorism against Pakistan. Why is that not happening?
Well, I think, Batsab, we have been raising this question for quite a lot of time, and I think here the responsibility of the regional players come. Here the responsibility of the great powers come. My point is, when international community spoke that there is a threat which is emanating from Afghanistan, that transnational terrorist organizations are hiding in Afghanistan, they are using Afghan territory and the West is not safe. We stood with the West, we stood with the international community, and we supported them. Now is the time when Pakistan is being targeted continuously from Afghanistan, but nobody wants to stand with Pakistan. Only the lip service will not work. The world needs to stand with Pakistan diplomatically, politically, and they have to support us in providing intelligence, in providing and giving a diplomatic pressure. Our own neighboring countries, they need to support us. And I think for this matter, much of the neighboring countries do believe that they need to engage and develop relations with Afghanistan, and they are trying to have that diplomatic kind of ties. That's very good. But for that matter, they need to look at why Pakistan is unsafe. There are safe havens for terrorist organizations in Afghanistan. And if countries are having business with Afghanistan, but Pakistan is facing that terrorism threat from Afghanistan, why they are not talking with Afghan Taliban? So here, I see an absence of, I believe that the regional countries, international community, United Nations, they are not listening to the concerns of the Pakistani authorities. And we have been saying this for quite a long time. And above all, I think the Pakistanis need to pressurize the Afghan government that if this continues, then those societal linkages which we have, they may get affected. But the most important point is we had security challenges from India, and remember the borders are closed. The question is that why borders cannot be closed on the western side. There are some people who ask these things, that we have to give value to this thought that the threat is emanating. Every day our soldiers are being martyred. Every day our civilians are being martyred. We cannot, excel in the business projects. The foreign direct investment which is coming in those in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, in Gilgit-Baltistan, that is facing challenges. Our tourism industry, we are on a path to the geoeconomics. We are not into the geostrategic competitions. We have been very clearly saying this. So our path is business, our path is development, our path is to develop the economy, and for that matter, and I think Afghanistan needs to stand with us, and international community need to stand. Doesn't Afghanistan want to that the lives of the Afghan citizens to get better? Don't they want to get integrated with the global community when it comes to the business and trade, or they want to be labeled as a terrorist country, or they are hiding the terrorist organization? I think we seriously have a challenge, and that challenge is the global community needs to stand with Pakistan. Do not forget us. We stood with you when you were in hurry, you were in trouble.
I agree with you, Qamar, and I'll put the same question to you, Jalal Saab. There are many a challenge, and Qamar points out towards different global players that need to put pressure on Afghanistan. You say Afghanistan is a very complicated question or complicated issue. Why has the Afghan interim government made it even more complicated?
Look, Afghan interim government is not a government which has come in power through any process, a democratic process, or if they don't have any burden of the public pressure, or the they cannot they don't have any pressure to adopt a policy for Afghanistan on which there is a pressure of the masses of Afghanistan or people of Afghanistan, because they are not answerable to anyone. So this is a kind of a government. They are not ideal or a champion statecraft. It's not their champion area, which So the gun has always been their policy in the past. Now they have TTPs and their old friends, so there is a lot of pressure on them. If they will take action against TTP, they might have the fear of own creating factions within their own, interim government and the groups and all that. So they are unable to take any action. Even if they were not taking any action, it would have been, might be accepted by us. But they are now supporting these elements. They are giving them licenses, they are harboring them, they are giving them the logistics support, they are giving them the accommodation, cars and all that, movement. So they are free in that country. So they seems that there is a partner with them, and then they are doing this application. Secondly, let me take Qamar Saab points further. There are around 23 to 24 or 25 proscribed organizations which are operating inside Afghanistan, and they are already in Afghanistan. Now, out of these organizations, around 14 or 15 are directly, they have the application on Pakistan, affecting Pakistan. But there are other proscribed organizations in Afghanistan which are emanating threat to China, Central Asia and Russia. So what he was hinting at, that we have to make those states understand that this is becoming an epicenter of the terrorism, which will spread terrorism to all parts of the world, because to cover their own misgovernance, bad governance in Afghanistan. So they will keep this kind of a situation on their borders and the neighboring countries, and especially Pakistan. So nobody is asking them question about their human rights violations inside Afghanistan, whatever they are doing to their own people, to the women, children of Afghanistan. So they will keep doing this, and they will continue with this policy. So their attention is more on this aspect of the whole scenario, We have to make China and we have to make Russia understand, Central Asia understand that this is the threat which is going there. Now, there is an incident in Oklahoma, probably in United States, where one Afghan individual was captured who was having links with the ISIS, and they were operating from the Afghanistan. So in future, this can create threat to America also. So this is, we have to make the world understand. And then the organization like RATS and the SCO, they have to be brought in, you know. Although India is there, they will try to scuttle all this because they are the supporters of this is suiting their designs.
They have vested interests.
So, yes, they have the invested, but we have to make people understand, and this is the reality. Now, whatever is happening in Canada, that is emanating from India. Whatever is happening in United States, that is emanating from India. And lot of incidents are happening which are emanating from Afghanistan. So this Indian role, this involvement in Afghanistan, their offices, their political support, their diplomatic support, and then their materialistic and logistic support to these terrorist organizations, this has to be shown to the world, and world itself will realize, you know. But having said all this, this is what we are expecting from others. But internally, we should have a people, I mean, we should have a all-encompassing, all-of-a-nation approach, where the government of Pakistan should lead and the democratic forces should lead, and military should focus on the kinetic operations. They should create an environment and a table where negotiations maybe in later part of the day that can be done, and lot of pressure on Afghanistan. Remember, we Pakistanis have to be but very, very careful that people of Afghanistan are suffering, and the people of Pakistan should not hate or talk against the people of Afghanistan. It is the interim government and these kharajites, these khawarij, you know.
But this is what our foreign office has also said,
Yes.
that we are going to not have
Yes.
any kind of talks
So
with the
those things should be very carefully and very craftily we should understand, and then we should have our policy like this. You know.
All right. Speaking of policy, Qamar, when you look at the international policy vis-a-vis Afghanistan, we all know that majority of the countries do not even acknowledge Afghanistan as a country, or the Afghan interim government as a legitimate government in Afghanistan. This said, many of the countries are slowly and steadily creating linkages with Afghanistan. But do you feel that this is causing a kind of an unbalance or imbalance as far as global geo-strategy or global geopolitics is concerned, vis-a-vis whatever is happening within Afghanistan, that is all the terrorist outfits, as General Sahab has pointed out, around 23 to 25 proscribed organizations that could be detrimental not only to Pakistan but to countries such as China, Russia and the Central Asian countries. You talk about joint strategies. We've had a quadrilateral meeting on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly session way back in September of four important countries that are related to in fact Afghanistan, and who have been affected by Afghanistan or could be affected by Afghanistan. Do you feel more such mechanisms need to be activated?
Well, Batsab, you are absolutely right that we need more mechanisms, but the question is that the great powers are either busy or they are confused. For example, or they are so much stressed. For example, if you just look that the United States pulled out of Afghanistan, they got busy in Ukraine, they got busy in Middle East, they stretched themselves to Indo-Pacific, and they wanted to be in the backyard of China to counter China, but the two wars in Middle East and Europe, they kept them busy. So the question is, they believe that because of this war against terrorism, because of this, not just in Afghanistan, but in the Middle East, but there have been a massive migration challenges for the European Union. And they are facing that kind of a challenge, that the people are moving from Middle East, from Asia, from Afghanistan, to the European Union, and they are confused. That now the question is, if they don't engage with us, if they stop engaging with Afghanistan, Pakistan, and all these countries, how come things get settled? So they need to engage. We know they are stressed. And there is no global policy right now. The international community is not thinking that we need to pay attention to Afghanistan. But remember that Pakistan is obviously facing such kind of challenges, and the people who are moving out of Afghanistan and they are going Europe on foot. So I think the European Union and the Americans and the rest of the world, they need to pay attention to Afghanistan. It's not a stable neighborhood, and for that matter, Iran has been saying this. Pakistan has been talking on that, and I think one thing I would like to highlight, Batsab, In the recent SCO conference, one of the theme was transnational terrorism and extremism. I think it would have been very better had the SCO discussed the role of Afghanistan in how they are making their the regional players and the neighboring countries insecure by hosting of the terrorist organizations. I think we couldn't create that consensus. Had we created this consensus, it would have been much better to have that kind of a diplomatic edge and to push and press Afghan Taliban to work for the people of Afghanistan, not against the people of Afghanistan by hosting these terrorist organizations. So these multilateral forums of which Pakistan is a part, particularly the regional forums, I think they can do a lot. We have Moscow process. India has its own and national security advisors. They meet with the regional countries. I think the efforts need to be synergized. China, which is looking at Afghanistan as an important player, and they are investing in billions of dollars to extract rare earth materials from Afghanistan. I think they need to talk with Afghan Taliban that how come we can have that kind of a consensus in the region where everybody is a winner, where the terrorist organization...
Everybody needs to be a winner, and a consensus that needs to be accepted by all the regional players that include Russia, China, Pakistan and all the other countries, especially the Central Asian states, and there needs to be a concrete effort to eliminate or suspend all such activities of these proscribed organizations, especially the Khawarij. Thank you very much, Qamar, to have joined us. Dr. Qamar, Cheema, ladies and gentlemen, senior analyst, joining us to discuss the terrorism that is emanating in Pakistan from the Afghan border. Thank you very much, Qamar, to have joined us. Coming to you, sir, Zahid sahab, Afghanistan Khawarij. TTP has been declared as the biggest terrorist organization there. Then there are numerous examples, I don't want to go inside of them, of ammunition that has been found, that was left by the US, billions of dollars worth of ammunition that has been found, that has been used by these Khawarij within Pakistan as well. What needs to be done by the international community as far as this use of advanced weaponry is concerned? B, what kind of major measure needs to be taken under the circumstances where the Khawarij or the TTP has been labelled as the largest terrorist organization in Afghanistan?
Look, but sir, you're hinting at the kind of ammunition which was left. It was not a comprehensive withdrawal of United States from Afghanistan, which has resulted into this situation which you are hinting at, So around 427,000 ammunition was there, weapons were there, and they could only take around 100,000. So 300,000 ammunition and weapon is available to these Khawarij, and this is at their disposal, and they are at spree of killing and all over, it's the domestic. Coming over to the measures which Pakistan needs to take at the international community, we have to highlight, it is a three-pronged strategy. It has to be adopted in the diplomatic front, in the political and direct bilateral terms, and then the military operations.
All right. I will have to cut you short a little bit, Zahid sir, because we are short of time, but thank you very much. We'll come to that three-pronged strategy the next time I come to town. So you kindly stay seated with us for the next 2 or 3 minutes while I end my show. Let's come to our last two stories very, very quickly. The first concerns the smog that has engulfed Lahore. We've been talking about this for quite some time, and of course measures have been taken by the Punjab government as well in that respect, as far as closing the schools is concerned, also putting those children who are vulnerable on holidays, as well as other measures that have also been taken. The city's maximum air quality index was reported at 1,173 on Sunday, and of course let's hope that this situation dissipates in the coming days. Finally, at least 25 people, including women and children, have died while traffickers deliberately capsized their boat off the island of the ocean nation of Comoros. This has been confirmed by the IOM, which is the United Nations Migration Agency. The boat sank late Friday between the Comoros island of Anjouan and the French island of Mayotte on an often used migration route on which thousands of people have lost their lives over the years, and this has been confirmed by the International Office of Migration in a statement. Fishermen have rescued 5 of those survivors on Saturday morning. These survivors said the boat had carried around 30 people of different nationalities, including 7 women and at least 6 young children. Now, despite being France's poorest department, Mayotte has French infrastructure and welfare, which makes it attractive to the migrants. That is why such people try to come to this area, and then unfortunate incidents like these happen. That's it for now. We'll join you inshallah tomorrow with more stories and segments that pertain to us and Pakistan. Stay safe. Allah Hafiz.